Electoral Commission's main office in Nairobi ahead of a planned protest by the main opposition coalition. Well, details of these and many more coming up. Thanks so much for your time. Let's do our first story. Former board chairman of SNIT, Professor Joshua Alabi, says his board could not have abrogated the controversial $72 million software. In a latest interview with TV3, he insisted the software could fetch SNIT millions of cedis if due diligence were done.
Know the role of a board. I mean, in this country, we know the role of a board. And of course, we know the role of a board chairman, right? So the board chairman cannot be responsible for certain operational issues, okay? It's policy. But on the whole, what happened in terms of the SNIT issue that we made was quite a very good project, right? Except that maybe the generators of the idea didn't know how far the project will be going. And for that matter, they kept on increasing it. And I think that this is where we may have to look at. We may have to look at the management and look at also the tanker staff and see what really went wrong in packaging the program, right? I think that it would have been very difficult for any board to terminate the project. That would have also resulted in something else. That is why I believe the current board can also terminate and the figures are going up. So we have to sit down. Before we left the board, it is in our minutes that we're going to audit, right, what was really happening with the project. And I'm happy they came and they are doing that. But we shouldn't politicize it. We shouldn't put it anywhere. We should make sure that as a people, we find the problem and hit at the problem so that we can be solving the problem. When we shift the problem somewhere else, then it will always be there. I think this is the problem. But we are all learning from these things as a people in this country. It's a learning process for all of us, right? And I think that we need to move forward. I believe in cleaning that place, and I think that if this board had the capacity, they should do that. It's important for all of us.
In other news, the Ghana Shippers Authority has cautioned against the move by shipping lines to transfer the 50-cent security fee to importers and exporters. Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Asiedu-Dartey, questioned the modalities for the action and called for an emergency meeting to address the problem. We'll tell you more about that story later on. This is Midday Live. And in some other stories related to the port, the Ghana Maritime Authority has defended the proposed 50-cent security fee to be charged on gross tonnage on vessels that call at the country's ports from October 1. Director General of the authority, Kwame Wusu, in an exclusive interview with TV3, said the agitations from the shipping lines were needless as the fee was legitimate.
The Ghana Maritime Authority, backed with LI 2009, is mandated to have charged $1 per gross tonnage on every vessel that calls at the port for its safety and security. It was, however, reduced to 15 cents till date. But the Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Kwame Owusu, says the 15 cents charge was illegitimate.
I believe that my administration and my directors agree we will move it to 50 cents, half what has been approved by Parliament, and then go back to Parliament and say, please, my people are claiming hemorrhaging, notwithstanding the price, reduce it so that we can regularize it. Other than that, I'll be supervising legitimate activity.
Kwame Owusu expressed shock over the agitations from the shipping lines, arguing the charge was far lower than that of the West African nations.
We realize that Nigeria takes, the Maritime Administration takes 3% of the gross freight, the cost of the container is paid to the administration. So we do not see any basis for the ship owners attempting to pass on such a charge to the shippers. We believe that is wrong and that is equally illegal.
In the next 6 days, the Ghana Maritime Authority will increase security charge or safety charge, which are charged on shipping lines. But this is a cost that the trading public are worried.
If you increase the tax to any local company, obviously they will also factor it in their cost, and it will be passed on to their customers.
In 2016, 8 shipping lines paid over $2 million of security charge to the GMA.
There are two things. SWAG cannot do anything. It's a business decision, especially with the car carriers, etc. They would rethink. Either they would skip Ghana. Togo is very close, so they can dump things in Togo. With the containerized cargo, what can they do? They would only have to pass it on. That's all they can do.
The Ghana Maritime Authority says implementation will start in October 1 this year, but it is yet to be taken to Parliament for approval. Josephine Frimpong, TV3 News.
Thanks so much for staying there for us. Now, collapsed road networks and bridges are a common phenomenon of recent rainstorms hitting the Ashanti region. The rain floods leave in their wake the deteriorated roads in a number of communities. Sunday's downpour, for instance, led to a total collapse of the Afrancho-Bronkong Bridge in Kumasi. Regional correspondent Ibrahim Abubakar is standing by to update us on how the current state of the bridge is affecting users and economic activities in the area.
It's impossible for any motorist to use this bridge. Now, about 6,000 residents in Bojesango, Masi, and other farming communities have been cut off from Bronkong. I will be engaging with some of the residents who are telling me that the current situation is affecting economic activities here at Bronkong. Mama, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Papa.
Sesi amu bridge di aye or how bena e de bremu.
Esi a bridge no how a de brand say nsuo to a yentimi ntwa. Afesu car no so yentimi mma. Ese ni aye na ye hu pa yesram omampani yesram amadawroma. We de yesram ye kwan na maye. Ese ye wosoro no ese nsuo to a yentimi nkọ Bronkom enkodidwa. E na mo so mo han so mo ntimi mma new site no so meya emeto ade ana se bibi senti se ye to ade ono so kra no. Ye nto bridge ni se ntia ma ye nto. Car first no so na bridge ni se so na car no so ba edwane na ye kama ye se so bridge ni ye se no ma ye se school for no so mo ntimi ntwa nsuo no enko school ti asira mo enu afiri me menda no nyina nsuo to ye yiri ye ntimi kura ntwa ne akwa asole yakọ ba bia ye ntimi nkodi dwa nya hwe ti asira mo a mampani wadawroma we de ensa danse mkotodwagu fom ye sira wo mampani ye sira wa de bayam yamwa.
Madam, I say all that she's saying is that the collapse of the bridge has affected their economic activities as traders here. I also have with me another resident. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, brother.
How has the collapse of this bridge affected you as a resident?
In fact, what can affected it? I went here. So I didn't affect it, but for the past 6 months, my shop was me made Jumada. So I feel when I make a kick and I'm going to my meeting here. Where is the bridge? And in fact, a hard bridge is getting to be 4 or 5 years and I'm a you. Now here I was running a watching this, you know, a young share. And ye, in fact, I'm a bridge now. Never just in a neck to heavy. And I feel we shall quana. I didn't eat to say any amount on the bridge. And you say, or more actually, and so the meeting a communion. I didn't. Oh, yes, I'm not check, brother. See, every man in the bridge now. I say, I was on a quite cheap, and I say, be a crony. A corner because of this bridge winter. Now, my watching it. I am over Pabla. We are school for Mammy for Mammy and Okoya Ocase. On shop, we are median one. Who better not could it? When you see in Tiasrema, Madaroma, with your mama one abonation to me, and some coy and seven minutes car carry on.
Yeah, that's it. I also have with me the assemblyman for this area, Mr. Sarkodie, who will also be throwing more light on their challenge here. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
Mo bridge the share say buye kakra you see the akodru the or how bena e de bremu
yo how no super papa or how no so they say fear o ha nyina ye tu mo e mofra so akwa aban school e nyina mofra no ntimi nkro so nsuye no mako school me no wo kasa kra sa nye ne nsuye atwe kakra nka ye ntimi megina ha enti yo how kase pa they say wo mo ha nyina o mko adwuma nyina nsuye no yire obi ntimi nkọ adwuma
ye nse adwuma we de esoma wa assemblyman Nanso what to one na mombiana.
Me pacho me tu one na mo friend this time no. Esi ka career chamfo de akoma urban rules for no. Na emo mintumi hu se omo me start adwuma se ska na enko yentro se de enti o mintumi hu de enti omo me sha adwuma na se. Ya tu one na mo pa.
Enti se sia Edian Namoya because where they are collapse area, Edian Anamombia Namutu.
Umpa ebe pe kwa mfufuro bi a eye katikwan ofra na afaso amo matima so benyi mampanyi ne president MP ni na asefo na wo mumpa o mo ya ban adwuma afo se be o mo so benya katikwan bi afaso a ebetima akọ adwuma ma aja wo mo so ahwe o mo yire ne o mo ma no te se afa ni e pe katikwan bi afaso a ebetimi de akunsuo no so yensu kese ntinya de keto asa
yo yeah that say he's saying that he has written series of letters to the assembly with regards to the deplorable state of the bridge, but he's here to get any positive result. Now, the current state of the bridge needs urgent reconstruction, else we fear there may be a preventable disaster. From Bronkro in the Efija-Kwabere district, my name is Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3 News.
Right, Ibrahim Abubakar there from Kumasi will update you more on that stories and the collapsed bridges. We're still staying there. We're picking information that 31 students have been sacked from Prempeh College, and exactly what might have caused us. We're going back to Ibrahim Abubakar there. Ibrahim, good afternoon, and grateful you've joined us back on the lines again. What might have necessitated the sacking of these students? Right, sorry for the poor connection with the audio there. Let me stay on this story and speak to Ibrahim. He's still there. Ibrahim, good afternoon once again. If you can hear me, is it confirmed that indeed these students have been sacked, and what might have caused their dismissal?
Well, for now, what we are hearing is that the 51 students have not been sacked. They have been repeated. So the board of the school will this afternoon take a decision as to whether they should be allowed to pay school fees. Mind you, these people were in Form 1, they wrote their promotional exams last term, so they were supposed to move to Form 2. But then they have been repeated, and we now have new Form 1 students who are enjoying the free SHS. So they have not qualified to join the free senior high school. So the headmaster was a bit confused as to whether he should take fees from these old students or allow them to continue with the free SHS policy. So he didn't know exactly what to do, and the report came out that 51 have been sacked. I spoke to him. He said, no, they have not been sacked. All of them are there. But then their fate will be determined by the board after today's meeting.
And if that is the case, the headmaster told you that he can feed them if he allows them to remain in school?
Absolutely. He didn't talk much. He says I should wait until the board ends the meeting, then they will know exactly what to do, whether they should allow them to stay and pay the school fees or they take any other action. But for now, he is not commenting much on it. We will follow up after the meeting from the board and find out what the outcome is.
When is this board meeting expected to end?
He says between today and tomorrow. This morning when we went there, he has gone to the regional Ghana Education Office, so we couldn't even meet him at office. So he is saying before the end of tomorrow, the board would have decided on the fate of these 51 students.
But at the moment, these students are on the compound, and it means that they are being fed.
That one, you couldn't tell me anything about that. Like I said, he wasn't giving us much information, but he admitted to me that some students have been repeated, and the 51 we are talking about, none of them has been asked to go home. For now, all of them are in campus, but then their fate will be decided after the board meeting.
But Ibrahim, we can conclude that if they are boarders, then they are on the compound and they are being fed.
Absolutely. Definitely they will be fed. But then, like I told you, he has not given me much information, because when we went to campus, he wasn't there. He has been summoned by the Regional Ghana Education Directorate. So after the meeting, we will find out whether indeed they are in boarding or they've been moved to as day students. That all those will be considered in the board meeting, whether one they should be allowed to be there, whether they should be paying school fees, and whether they should be even enjoying boarding facilities, or all if they are boarded, they will be moved as day students. All
right, we're grateful. Ibrahim Abubakar is our correspondent in the Ashanti region there. We'll update you on that story when that board meeting is cleared. This is Midday Live. Now, let's turn attention to the Volta region. The Volta regional coordinator of the National Security has been apprehended by the police for allegedly extorting monies from traders and aiding smuggling. Security coordinator Apia Fenteng was arrested by police yesterday for allegedly extorting monies from traders and aiding them to smuggle goods from Togo into the country. Information indicates he was picked up by the police at Chito, where he was escorting a vehicle loaded with goods that had been taxed or had not been taxed to Accra. And exactly what led to the arrest, we'll tell you as we get to speak to our regional correspondent, Robert Abeba, who is joining me on the telephone lines. Robert, good afternoon. I'm grateful for your time. What can you tell us as to where the regional security coordinator is at the moment?
Good afternoon, Bright. Currently, he has been granted self-inquiry bail after a few interrogations with regards to his arrest. But on the whole, he denied the allegations that he is extorting money from traders and aiding smuggling along the borders in this Volta region. When I spoke with him on telephone, he described such as a plot.
All right, Robert, that's exactly what has the police been saying about the arrest. How did the police effect the arrest?
With you right now, the police are even confused with regards to, because they, according to the coordinator, they were looking for police after a tip-off, and a volunteer had informed this national security coordinator that unwholesome goods, and for them the goods that were not taxed, are about to embark on a journey without paying tax. So they alerted him, and this man called the regional police commander, and they said they did not have men to help him. By then he had already set off to the border post, and in that direction he has again spoken to the national headquarters, Accra, informing them about the situation. So they said, okay, one, escort these goods, these bars, and come to Accra so that we will now give them the tax component of whatever they are holding, so that they will pay without evading tax.
Right.
So in that direction, he was not escorting these goods. He has already arrested the vehicle with these goods without the police, because they said they had no men to help him, and not knowing something was under the sleeves of others. Those he described as detractors of the party, and for that matter, those operatives within the region. That's what Pierre Fenteng is saying as of now. And this thing is creating mayhem and confusion in the township. As I speak with you, the Volta Regional Coordinating Council has just is holding an emergency meeting now, just to unravel whether the one who gave orders for his arrest had the right to even do so. Because the regional commander was not the one who gave orders. Accordingly, they say it is a crime officer. So the crime officer
Robert, before you go, Robert, finally before you go, when is he supposed to report back to the police?
As we speak today, the police did not even tell him to report back. They only took few questions from him and allowed him to go. So, but now the RECSEC is inviting the police, including the security coordinator. Currently, they are meeting now to know what went wrong for the arrest of this gentleman.
Robert, I'm grateful. Robert Abeba is our correspondent in the Volta region, updating us on the arrest of the National Security Coordinator for what the police refers to as aiding and abetting. We'll tell you more of that later on. The Ghana Shippers Authority has cautioned against the move by shipping lines to transfer the 50-cent security fee to exporters and importers. Deputy Chief Executive of the authority, Asiedu-Dartey, is questioning the modalities for the action and called for an emergency meeting to address the issue.
Asiedu-Dartey says any attempt by the shipping lines to pass on the charge to shippers would not be accepted.
We need to engage the Ghana Maritime Authority and appreciate the modalities, as to whether it is for the shipping line to pass on such a cost to the shipper. There are some costs that are supposed to be borne by the shipping line, and that is not supposed to be passed on to the shipper. So it is important for us to have a good appreciation of the modalities involved in this whole charge.
She called for an emergency meeting to deliberate on the issue.
But we need to look at the implication of all that in the industry, and that is where we are coming from as an organization, and we think that it is important for us to sit down as parties to look at the implication and then decide the way forward.
With the implementation of the new security fee, shippers anticipate that the cost of doing business would increase tremendously. They fear that between October and December, which is the peak period for port activities, it might limit importers from shipping their goods. Concerns have also been raised that the new charges will defeat the purpose of the port expansion project, which is to attract more vessels for business. Meanwhile, the shipping lines have vowed to divert trade to the Lome port if the situation remains sane.
Now let's move to the Bono Ahafo region. The Trafuhini of the Techima traditional area, Nana Afena Nketia, has pulled down 12 uncompleted houses being constructed along the Tano River. He also cautioned residents and individuals and groups of persons against development along the Tano River.
Nana Afena Nketia warned persons who farm along the Tano River, as well as those who burn the raffia trees that provide shade to the Tano River. The chief, in collaboration with the Bono Ahafo Regional Environmental Protection Agency, undertook a tree planting exercise to help protect the water body. 1,000 trees were planted with the support of Tako Junior High School pupils. 200 coconut trees were planted to prevent encroachers from constructing on the Tano River body. Nana Afena Nketia pleaded with the EPA and other responsible agencies to use their authority to prevent any illegal construction.
Whosoever comes to farm here and then fell a single tree, there will be a big punishment for him.
He says he will demolish all illegal structures in his catchment area.
Within my jurisdiction, if you build without my consent and it doesn't fall within the layout area, the next thing to do is to pull your building down.
The construction of a bridge to link Aguna Safu to an adjoining community has been abandoned. Both communities have been cut off, making transportation on the stretch difficult. This is a report by Lucy Ayambela.
Construction of the abandoned bridge commenced in 2015 by the Member of Parliament for the area. The project stalled the same year owing to lack of funds. Reliable sources from the Agona East District Assembly told TV3 the contract awarded for the construction of the bridge did not go through due to due process. The road has since not been accessible due to constant erosion. An alternative route to both communities is about 8 kilometers away. Residents want the District Assembly to, as a matter of agency, fix the road. However, at a deba of chiefs and people of Aguna Asafo, as part of the Akwambo festival, the chief of the area expressed displeasure over the constant neglect of some social intervention projects in the area.
This is Midday Live. We're stepping on the brakes for now. While we come back, there is more, particularly on the front of business. Stay with us. We're back in a moment. This is business. The governor of the Bank of Ghana has suggested all commercial banks which cannot meet the bank's new capital requirement of 400 million cedis by December 2018 to go for a savings and loans license. He believes there would not be a turning back on this decision for every bank to meet the new capital levels of 400 million by December. Speaking recently at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Addison also disclosed that some banks are currently in talks to merge or be acquired. He explained that this is based on some formal communication with the central bank as some banks strategize to meet the new minimum requirement. The governor is of the view that the recapitalization of these banks should be market-driven rather than being forced by the regulator. The governor, during a press engagement Monday, also noted that the remaining banks that there were issues with capital adequacy ratio and have improved their position to satisfactory levels. My guest in the studio is a banking consultant, Nana Oturu-Champion. Good afternoon, grateful for your time. The governor's advice that if you can't meet the requirement, go pick savings and license certificate. How well should these banks take the advice?
Well, they should take it serious in the sense that since the announcement of the 400 minimum capital, there has been a lot of analysis in the media with some suggesting that they should create another set of groups. And he said already Ghana has one of the most expansive type in that there are 5 groups in banking in Ghana. Now, banking is defined in Section 156 of the New Banking Act, that it's an institution that takes money from the public and gives out loan to the public. So therefore, for that matter, there are over 600 institutions doing that, divided into 5. If you start from the bottom, you got the savings and loans, which has a minimum capital requirement of 500,000 Ghana cedis, moving to 2 million by the end of 2018. The next group is rural community banks. They have a minimum capital of 500,000, moving to 1 million by the end of this year. Then we have the savings and loans and finance houses. They have a minimum capital of 15 million. We don't know whether that will be increased, but for now, that's what they have. Then the top group, which is the universal banks, they have now been asked to have 400 million. So somebody asked a question that if they are not able to meet it, what do they do? And he said, these 5 groupings are there.
They can drop.
You can drop, you know. So if, because for instance, if you are Universal Bank and you've got 120 million now, and you are not able to get the 400, you don't need to do anything. Automatically, your license will be changed from a universal bank
if you don't meet it.
Exactly, to a savings and loan, because there the minimum is 15 million. That's not the maximum. So if you've got 120 and you cannot move up to 400, then remain where you are and your license classification will change, because Section 8 of that Act specifically gives these categories for licensing purposes, whether you are going for microfinance, the savings and loan, rural bank, or universal bank license.
I see. So the central bank knows the books of these banks.
Yeah.
So that advice is based on some information the central bank has.
It's definitely. You see, the last time minimum capital was really increased was back in 2002, when it was increased from 7 million to 60 million. Now, what happened in 2014 was that new banks coming in now need a minimum of 120. So therefore, there are some of the old banks who really, the minimum capital that they require is 60 million. Now, when it was increased in 2002 from 7 million to 60 million, we thought that most of them would meet it. But then at that time, the regulator made special dispensation by grouping the banks into local banks and foreign banks.
Right.
And the foreign banks were given a shorter period to comply, and the local banks were given an extended period. This time around, it's put everybody in the same basket.
The central bank is not ready to do that again.
By 2018 December, all of you should have 400 million. If you don't have it, nothing stops you from changing your license.
Is the central bank being fair in this direction?
I think very, very fair.
Very fair.
Because unlike the previous one, this one has been going around for over 3 years that they want to increase the minimum. Even the signal they gave in 2014 tells you that we are going to go up. So anybody who was serious in banking will start looking for the extra capital.
You've been walking around the banks a lot.
Yes.
Do you see these banks able to meet the requirement?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that the serious ones, because there's a lot of money overseas, a lot of money looking for homes.
They're not going for it.
So, exactly.
The banks are not going for the money.
If you want to go for it.
Why are they not going for it?
Well, because they don't come without conditions. There will be conditions attached, in terms of even who forms your board and all that sort of thing. And so you cannot have your cake and eat it at the same time.
And they can't meet the conditions.
It's the conditions
operational conditions?
That's right. It's the conditions that stop some of them trying to access funds from abroad. But if they are able to meet the conditions, then there are funds. Because there are at least one or two that I know that have gone overseas, met the conditions, and their capital has blossomed beyond the 400 million.
Finally, so the advice, those who cannot, which cannot meet these conditions and so can't access this money, they should simply heed the advice of the governor.
Yes, well, because they've got about 3 options left to them. A, you can marry another bank by merging.
That's a measure?
Yes. You can go overseas and look for some money which will be, which will have conditions, right? Or thirdly, do nothing and drop to Division 1.
Automatically.
Yes, because it's a league table, Premier League and Division 1.
I'm grateful. Nano Tuchapo is a banking consultant. They're talking to me about the Bank of Ghana's advice to banks to pick up certificates of savings and loans companies if they cannot meet the capital requirement. We're staying with the Bank of Ghana because it has maintained the policy rate at 21% following careful consideration of declining inflation and its pressures. Governor Dr. Ernest Addison explained the upward adjustment of petroleum prices poses a risk to inflation outlook.
The year-on-year inflation for August was 12.3% from 11.9% in July. According to the central bank, this played a key role in maintaining the policy rate at 21%.
Since August 2017, there have been upward adjustments in ex-pump petroleum prices, which are likely to transmit through prices in the coming months and pose some risks to the inflation outlook. These notwithstanding, the latest forecast show that the medium-term inflation target is achievable in 2018.
Total public debt stock stood at 139 billion cedis at the end of June, representing 68.6% of GDP, from 137 billion cedis, representing 68% of GDP in May 2017. This marginal increase has been attributed to the seesawing effect of the exchange rate.
Exchange rate stability is very key, and even though the policy objective for the bank is on price stability, we expect that once we are able to achieve that price stability, would also indirectly, in a sense, deliver the exchange rate stability. So we are not really focusing on a fixed exchange rate. Ghana does not have a fixed exchange rate.
On growth, prospects remain positive for the economy. Reacting to the announcement, banking consultant Nana Otuechampong is of the view interest rates are likely to go down.
Gradually, the cost of lending is coming down, and I think some players in the market will confirm that the cost of borrowing is gradually coming down. So this will mean that the banks will continue the downward trend to lower interest rates.
This is Midday live on TV3. When we return from the break, we'll take you to the world of sports. Stay with us if you can.